All right. So again, thank you all for being here. This is our session for the multiple subject credential program at Cal State Long Beach. And our agenda for today, we will be going over the California credential requirements, right? So these are requirements that all accredited programs have to adhere to so that you can become a credentialed teacher. After that, we're going to dig specifically into the program admissions processes for Cal State Long Beach, right? What does admissions look like? What does the application look like? We're going to talk about clinical practice and student teaching that is part of the program. And then we're going to end.
You're fine.
Sorry, think of this one.
If you
okay. It's okay. You can take
mute
off of that.
yourselves, please. I'm getting some feedback from folks who have their mic on. Thank you so much. Okay. And then we're going to end our conversation with what tuition looks like and financial aid looks like. Okay. So first and foremost, right, if you wanted to get a credential in the state of California, you need a bachelor's degree from a regionally accredited institution, right? So a bachelor's degree, some of you, if you are currently in your undergraduate programs, right, you will have a BA, right, or a BS. And then those of you who are starting as postbac students should already have your bachelor's degree. A second thing on here that I think a lot of you will be happy about is a demonstration of basic skills. As of July 1st, Governor Newsom signed a bill saying that if you have a bachelor's degree, you automatically meet basic skills. So this is great, right? This means you no longer have to take the CBEST, you no longer have to do like a coursework verification. As long as you have a bachelor's degree, you will automatically meet this requirement, which makes it easier for you all, easier for us, right? So that's something that we can celebrate today that you can basically check off your list, okay? So something else that you have to do to get your credentials, you have to complete a commission-approved teacher preparation program, and you have to demonstrate subject matter competency. So coming to Cal State Long Beach means you would be doing a California accredited credential program. And for the multiple subject program specifically, right, we're going to talk about subject matter competency, right? So subject matter competency is a requirement that essentially proves that you know the content that you're going to be teaching. Do you know all of like those subjects that you're going to be teaching in your classroom? Language arts, reading, history, right? Math, science, PE, the arts. So this is what we're talking about in terms of subject matter competency for multiple subjects. And here are listed the ways that you can meet subject matter competency. So one of the ways you could do that is by taking the CSAT exam. So the CSAT exam is that California examination for teachers. The multiple subject CSAT has 3 subtests. And we do require that you have passing scores for that exam, and we'll get into our admissions process a little bit later, but CSAT is one of the ways that you can meet subject matter competency. A second way is by having a degree in liberal studies. So a liberal studies degree, all of that coursework that you do as part of this major is to prepare you to be an elementary school teacher. So the state has said that if your degree is in liberal studies, you automatically meet subject matter competency, okay? You can also do the completion of a subject matter preparation program, right? So your institution may offer a program that is specifically tailored, right, to meet the domains for multiple subjects. And then the last part is a combination of coursework and exam. So basically what number 4 means is you may have taken some coursework that aligns with the domains, right? But you may have some areas that are missing or have some holes. So you could do a combination of that coursework and CSAT exam. Here at Cal State Long Beach, once you are our student, we do have a service where our liberal studies department can evaluate your transcripts to determine if any of the coursework you previously taken will meet any of the domains of the CSAT exam. And at when they return that evaluation to you, they will let you know, hey, you meet subtest 1 and subtest 2. You don't have enough coursework in subtest 3, so go ahead and take CSAT subtest 3 for multiple subject. So that's how you would do the combination of coursework and exam. At this time, we only do evaluations for current students for multiple subjects. So you do have to be a Cal State Long Beach student to have a subject matter evaluation performed by our liberal studies department, okay? So again, you can meet subject matter competency by exam, by a degree in liberal studies, completion of a subject matter prep program, or a combination of coursework and exam. All right. So next on our list is, these are some of the other things that you would need for your credential as California states, right? So you would, in addition to subject matter competency, would demonstrate a CPR certification. You would pass the TPAs, which are during your student teaching semester, satisfy the developing English language skills requirement, which is embedded into our program, demonstrate a level 1 technology proficiency, which would be embedded in your coursework, and a demonstration of knowledge of the US Constitution. So for this US Constitution portion, if you are an alumni of the Cal State system, meaning you graduated from any of the CSUs, you would automatically meet this US Constitution requirement. For those of you that didn't go to a CSU, it could be equivalent coursework. It's typically like a Poli-Sci 100 class, or you could also do it by exam. So once you get to Cal State Long Beach, our Credential Center could take a look at your transcripts if you're not from a CSU system and let you know, yeah, that Poli-Sci 100 class will work, or hey, you can take an Intro to Government class here, or go ahead and take the exam. Okay, so the US Constitution requirement is just needed for you to get your credential. You don't need it for any of the admissions processes. So it's just something you have to finish by the time you complete the credential program. I don't know specifically what classes would work for this, but again, if you come to the program, you could have a conversation with our Credential Center, and they could let you know whether or not that class would count. Okay. All right, we talked about that. So now let's dig into the program here that we have at Cal State Long Beach. So this is the typical timeline for getting through the program. And that first step is to apply to Cal State Long Beach. So what we want you to do is we want you to apply to the university so that you could be a Cal State Long Beach University student, okay? And this means applying through Cal State Apply for the semester that you wish to get started for. So right now, the application cycle that is open is for spring 2025. So for all of you out there who are like, I know I want to get started for spring 2025, your step would be to do this university application by November 1st. So you can go to this link over at Cal State Apply, make sure you indicate you're doing the spring 2025 cycle, right? And when you're doing that application, you want to select that you're doing a second bachelor's and beyond, teacher credential only, right? And then it'll give you an opportunity to choose Cal State Long Beach and the multiple subject program as a choice program for you. Again, you have to do this application by November 1st. It is a hard deadline, right? So if you were to miss this application or you wanted to get started for the fall instead, then you would apply for the next cycle, which would open in October and run through June 1st. We also have up on our website, like tips for completing this application. So if any of you folks are current students, right, like you're an undergrad and you're about to finish your time, let's say at Cal State Long Beach, yes, you have to reapply to the university. What happens when you're an undergraduate and you complete your bachelor's degree, your institution is like, all right, goodbye, good luck, right? And you're no longer active in the system once you graduate because technically you're done. So you do have to reapply to the university so that the university knows that you are coming back to pursue the credential program. So your student status would not automatically extend because you're pursuing the credential. You do have to reapply to the program. If you're finishing up your studies elsewhere, right, you would graduate from your institution and then you would do this Cal State Apply application for the semester you intend on starting, okay? And then I'll get into pathways in just a bit, but you would indicate on the application where it shows under multiple subject, there's different pathways that fall under it. You would choose the pathway which you are intending to pursue. If you don't know what pathways I'm referring to, I will get to that in a few slides on this presentation. These are our pathways. Here we go. So as part of the multiple subject program, we do offer various pathways. So we have a traditional pathway, which is self-paced, You Teach option, which is a cohort model. And then we offer, I'm going to actually jump to that last bullet, an internship pathway, which would entitle completing the same things that the You Teach and traditional would be. And then we have the bilingual authorizations in Spanish and Asian languages. So the bilingual in Spanish, the bilingual authorizations either in Spanish or Asian languages are an add-on, right? So they are not mandatory. Authorizations can be added while you're in the program, or they can be added after. But when you are filling out that Cal State application, it will ask you which of these pathways you intend on pursuing. So it could be that you choose multiple subject traditional or multiple subject You Teach, multiple subject BILA, right? So depending on which pathway you wish to pursue while you're in the program would be your choice when you choose that on the Cal State Apply application. If once you're already with us at Cal State Long Beach and you decide that maybe a pathway is not for you, that's something that we can adjust for you if need be. I will dig into these pathways a little bit more specifically in just a second. Okay. So now that you have applied to the university, right, and you get into Cal State Long Beach, right, what comes next? And something actually, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, is for this university application, this application is pretty straightforward. All the university is asking you to provide, or to basically to get enrollment, is a 2.5 GPA and proof of a bachelor's degree. Okay, so all the Cal State Apply application is looking for is a 2.5 GPA and a bachelor's degree. Again, this is so that you could be a Cal State Long Beach University student so that you can then enroll in the pre and co-recs your first semester, okay? Because at this point, you're a university student, but you're still a candidate for the program. And that's why in your first semester, you take the pre and co-requisites, okay? Here are the pre and co-requisites for the multiple subject program. There are two prereqs, EDL 380 and EDSP 303, right? The prereqs are important. You must earn a B or better in both of the prerequisites in order to be admitted to the program, okay? Being in these two prerequisites are what allow you to then work on a credential application, okay, which we're going to get into. So pre and co-recs, EDL 380, EDSP 303, and then there are two co-requisites, EDL 413 and 431. The cool thing about the co-requisites is that you can take them at any time. So you can choose to take them with the prereqs in your first semester, or you can decide maybe you only have room for one or you don't have room for either. You'll just need to complete the co-requisites at some point throughout your program before student teaching. But the prereqs do need to come first if you want to advance in the rest of the program. And what do you mean by advance? So you have to do a second application the semester that you are in your prerequisites. And this application is to the credential program specifically. So this is like step 2 in the application process. By just applying to the university, it does not mean you're in the program, okay? You apply to the university, you enroll in the prereqs. While you're in the prereqs, you then do the second application to the program. And this application, we are looking for more specific items that were not included in your university application. So what are we looking for in that program application? We're looking that you have a 2.67 overall GPA or 2.75 in your last 60 semester or your 90 quarter units. Notice how the GPA requirement is slightly higher than the university application, okay? So 2.67 overall or 2.75 in your last 60 or 90 quarter units. You must successfully complete the prerequisites as we stated in the previous slide, right? So again, you have those prerequisites in progress. You're gonna apply to the program. We're gonna make sure, we're gonna do a check that you completed both of those prerequisites with a B or better. As part of your application, you'll also do an interview with one of our multiple subject faculty members, and you're gonna complete an application packet that's gonna be through a platform that we're using called MyCED. So MyCED is a platform that we're using for our applications, and we would let you know how this process looks once you come. But basically this application on MyCED is gonna contain all of the items that we've discussed, right? So as part of this application, you're gonna include your personal information, you're gonna include all of your transcripts. Why do we ask for your transcripts? We use them to calculate your GPA. We confirm that your degree has been conferred so that we can say you've met basic skills, right? And then we may also use it to verify your subject matter competency, right? So if you have a liberal studies degree, that's how we would verify that you're meeting subject matter competency by degree. As part of your application, we're going to also ask that you provide a personal statement describing your philosophy of teaching, right? Why you want to go into teaching, how you view yourself as a teacher. We're also going to ask you to have a recommendation, right? So you would include the name and the email of someone that can speak to your professional capacities. As part of your EDO 380 class, you're going to have observation hours. So this class has 45 hours of observations, and you will be observing a teacher, right, in a classroom. And at the conclusion of the semester, you would ask this teacher that you've been observing for these 16 weeks to provide you with an evaluation. So that would be also part of your application. If you're not able to secure an evaluation, then we just ask that you provide a second recommender, okay? I already spoke about the transcripts, right? We would need to see transcripts from all of the colleges and universities that you've attended for all of the reasons I've just stated, right? GPA, right? Proof of subject matter competency and proof of basic skills. We would also need to see that you have a negative TB test within the last 4 years. Proof of basic skills, like I've said, you would prove by a degree, subject matter competency proof. So if you're not meeting by degree, this would be the time in the application where you upload your CSET results because you're meeting by CSET. If you're meeting by a combination of coursework and exam, it would be your CSET scores in addition to the courses that you've taken to do that combo. We would also ask to see a valid certificate of clearance, right? So the certificate of clearance is essentially that background check done through the California Teaching Commission, right? The CTC, which basically says that you're cleared to go into schools. And we would also accept a 30-day sub permit in its place as well. And then one of the last components on that application would be a self-assessment. This part is a reflective piece where you're actually answering questions about yourself, or like saying where you land on like certain, like on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm always open-minded, right? And then you would kind of self-assess yourself. That's what that portion is. So again, this multiple subject application is so that you could be officially admitted to the program. It is completed while you're doing those prerequisites your first semester, and it is due at the end of the semester. So for those folks who are thinking of starting the program with us in the spring, if you take EDO 380, ADSPO 303 in the spring, right, you can work on this application and it would be due at the end of the semester, more specifically July 1st. Okay. This is just a snapshot of what a certificate of clearance screenshot looks like, right? So all of you will be making profiles on the CTC, right? As future educators, this is where all of your documents are going to be housed. So if you've ever had a 30-day sub permit, this is where this show up. Your certificate of clearance, this is where this is going to show up. We have processes for how to obtain all these items that we can share with you once you're here with us. So if this seems like a lot of information right now, we actually have a lot of resources for helping you obtain all of these items once you are enrolled in our program and are taking our classes. Okay, and I saw something in the chat. What is the acceptance rate? So something that's, I think, really cool about our program is that as long as you meet the requirements, you will get in. Simple as that. If you meet everything on that list, you will be accepted to the program. Okay. All right. So now that you applied to the university, you took your prereqs and you applied to the program and you got in. Now it's time to move on to your pedagogy courses. And your pedagogy courses are where you're learning how to teach. Okay, and this is where I'm going to dig into the pathways, because depending on the pathway that you choose will determine how you take your courses. So we have the traditional pathway, right? So the traditional pathway is the pathway that is more common for our students to take. It is self-paced. And what this means is that you have the flexibility to craft the schedule that you want. So you can decide whether or not you want to take those 2 prereqs and co-reqs your first semester because you want to be full-time and you want to finish the program as quickly as possible. Or depending on your schedule, you know what, you're like working full-time and you have other responsibilities. Maybe you just want to take 2 classes your first semester. So this is what the traditional pathway allows you to do. You have control over how many courses you want to take per semester, and you can space it out however it works for you. From the point you take that first credential course, however, you have up to 7 years to finish. That's how long our courses are valid for, okay? So our program is composed of 2 prereqs, 2 co-reqs, which I'm going to show on the next screen, 5 methods courses, and then you have 1 semester of student teaching, okay? For the traditional pathway, we do require that you have all of the courses completed before you move on into student teaching. And all of our courses are offered both in the fall and the spring. So here's what I mean by pedagogy courses, right? So our pedagogy courses include teaching language arts, teaching reading, teaching math, teaching social science, and then teaching science. So these are the classes where you really spend time on learning how to teach these different subject areas, okay? So this is, and also let me just be clear, all of the courses are the same regardless of the pathway. The pathway just kind of determines when you're going to take them, right? So if you're on the traditional pathway, you have more flexibility in crafting when you're going to take them, as opposed to like the UTeach pathway. So our UTeach pathway is our cohorted pathway that only begins in the fall semester. And there's more criteria to being on the UTeach pathway. You do have to have both your pre and co-requisites done prior to beginning UTeach. So unlike the traditional pathway where you just have to finish the co-reqs at any time, in order to start UTeach, you do need to have them completed, right? So that's one of the criteria for UTeach. And then one of the special things about UTeach is that you're actually taking coursework and doing student teaching at the same time. So if you feel like you want a pathway that's a little bit more structured and where what you're learning is being directly implemented that same day, that same week, this may be the pathway for you because you start in a cohort, right? You're taking courses together in the evenings, and the next day in the mornings, you all are student teaching. So you're like in the classroom, literally learning, and then in the classroom teaching. So this is what makes UTeach a very unique pathway, is that you are practicing what you're learning on the spot, you know? So as opposed to the traditional pathway where you do coursework first, and then the culminating semester student teaching, the UTeach pathways, you're doing coursework and student teaching, okay? So this is what your fall semester would look like. So unlike the traditional pathway, you do not get a choice in crafting your schedule. You would have to follow the structure of the UTeach cohort model. So in your fall semester, because remember, you've already completed your pre and co-reqs, in your fall semester, you would be taking EDL 452, 62, and SED 475. And doing your first half of student teaching. And then the spring, you would take your remaining pedagogy courses, 442 and 472, and then do your second half of student teaching, okay? So your pathways may not take the same amount of time because remember, if you do the UTeach pathway, this is crafted specifically to go like this. Pre and co-reqs done, fall semester, spring semester, right? So there's not much flexibility in the UTeach pathway, where this could take you exactly 3 semesters. Because if you do 1 semester pre and co-reqs, right? And then your fall semester is already set up for you, and so is your spring semester. Your traditional pathway could be done in 3 semesters, right? First semester pre and co-reqs, second semester method courses, last semester student teaching, but it doesn't have to be. You can spread that out if you want, because remember, that pathway is self-paced. All right. You can also add, like I said earlier, the bilingual authorization to your credential. Again, this part is optional, but for those of you who want to go teach in dual language schools, you want to add a bilingual authorization. And what does this mean? So the bilingual authorization means that you can teach whatever you get your credential in that language. So all of you here who are planning on being elementary school teachers and getting your credential multiple subject, if you have, let's say, a BILA in Vietnamese, you can now teach elementary school in Vietnamese, right? Let me, just highlight, you are not teaching Vietnamese, you are teaching in Vietnamese, right? Or you're teaching in Spanish, you're teaching in Korean. That's what we mean by a bilingual authorization. And in order to add on a bilingual authorization, or we say BILA for short, if you're going to add on a BILA, this is an additional 2 classes. So 2 more classes in addition to your credential coursework and the CSET 3 for whatever language that you're doing, right? So it is a language methods course, a culture course, and Spanish, and the CSET 3 for whatever language you're doing, right? So this is what we have listed here. We also have the names of the folks that head or can answer your questions for that bilingual authorization. But as you can see here, right, you have to pass the CSET World Languages Subtest 3, the appropriate culture course and method course for your language. And once you meet all those 3 requirements, you can add on that bilingual authorization to your multiple subject credential, okay? Again, this is an add-on, so it's optional. If at some point in the program, you maybe started in the BILA but didn't finish the requirements, you can just get your multiple subject credential and then add on the bilingual authorization later. But a lot of students do like to complete the BILA requirements prior to student teaching, because then you may have the opportunity to student teach in a dual language setting. Okay. Now the internship pathway. So we do offer an internship pathway for the multiple subject program. And what does this mean? So as part of becoming a credentialed teacher, you have to do student teaching. So you have to do all of those hours in the classroom where you're practicing being a teacher, right? And it is a 1 semester commitment, or if you're doing, you teach, right, the 2 semester. But for that 1 semester commitment under the traditional pathway, it may not be feasible for some of you folks to not be working, right? And if you're doing traditional student teaching, you're in the classroom Monday through Friday from 8 to 3 a.m. for 16 weeks. And this is unpaid. So what a lot of folks turn to in those cases is the intern pathway. And in the intern pathway, you essentially, give me 1 second, someone just came in. In the intern pathway, you secure a full-time teaching position as the teacher of record, and you're completing the program at the same time, right? So it's basically an agreement between you, the school where you get the job, and the credential program, right? That you're gonna finish an accredited program, so they hire you in the meantime. So you're working, getting paid, and finishing the program at the same time. And this is very alluring to a lot of students, because during your student teaching semester, you're actually working and you're getting paid, and you basically don't have to give up a semester of, getting a salary. So this is available for you as a multiple subject candidate. There is eligibility criteria that you need to meet in order to be intern eligible. You're still completing the same courses as everybody else, but you may want to decide like if you know you want to be intern eligible, you want to make sure to prioritize the classes that are listed here first, so that then you could show the district or the school that you're intern eligible, and then they could hire you as an intern, and then you finish the program, right? So you would not be intern eligible your first semester. Your first semester, you're still a candidate and you're still applying to the program. But after that, you want to make sure to come see us and vocalize to us that you want to maybe pursue the internship pathway. And we can make sure that you know the criteria, that's listed on the screen, and we can craft your plan, or we can help you select courses so that you become intern eligible as soon as possible. You can get that going. Or it could also just be that you do your pre and co-recs the first semester, all of your methods, your second semester. At that point, you'd be intern eligible, and then you can do the intern credential, instead of your student teaching. So that's the intern pathway. So now we've gone through this entire process where you applied to Cal State Long Beach, you're enrolled, you took the pre and co-recs, and you applied to the program, you got admitted to the program, you took all of your methods courses, and then, oops, what happened? Kick me out. Sorry, folks. And someone also just joined our meeting. You took your pedagogy courses, you completed student teaching, right? So I've been talking about student teaching, and I briefly already said what it is, but it's 60 units where you're actually placed in somebody's classroom and you're practicing your teaching, right? You are creating lesson plans, you're implementing lesson plans. You are assigned to someone at that school placement, right? We call them your mentor teacher. And you're also assigned a university mentor or a university supervisor. So we work with a lot of different schools across SoCal. We don't just work with Long Beach Unified. We work with districts within a 20-mile radius of Cal State Long Beach, right? And this is basically the culminating experience of the program, where you're really getting to dig in and practice being a teacher. You're getting your teaching voice, you're putting all these things that you've been learning about into practice. It's basically your on-the-job training. And like I said before, it kind of functions like a full-time job, but it is a non-paid commitment, which is why the internship pathway, again, is so appealing to some folks, okay? So after you complete student teaching, we do offer it in the fall and the spring semester. You do have to apply to student teaching the semester before. We just need to make sure that you've met all the requirements to advance. Okay, so now that you've done all that, you earn your preliminary multiple subject credential, right? So your preliminary credential is valid for 5 years. At that point, I assume most of you will actively start looking for jobs, right? And if you get hired, where you get hired, your district will do an induction program for you, which is like additional professional development. And this is so that you can clear your credential. And then once you clear your credential, that would be valid for 5 years, and then you would be able to renew it at that time. Okay. Then we wanted to talk about Open University. So what is Open University? So some folks sometimes maybe don't submit the Cal State Apply application on time, or maybe, they don't meet the GPA requirement to get into the university and, don't get admitted and can take courses that way. So then what we suggest that students do is that they go through Open University. Open University is for non-students who still want to take courses. So this is an option for you if any of those scenarios I just mentioned apply to you, right? Maybe you don't apply to the university on time, or you want to take classes through Open University, say you want to take the pre and co-recs to like raise your GPA, right? Or maybe you just want to take one course and you just want to do that one solo. So Open University is available to you. The caveat about Open University is that matriculated students are given priority enrollment first. So you're able to get into the class only if there's space. So basically what you do is you show up that first day of the semester physically to the class, or you email the professor and you say, hey, I'm trying to get started on my multiple subject credential. I'm trying to get into this class through Open University. Do you give me permission to take the class? If the instructor said yes, then you would follow the enrollment processes set out by Open University, get into the class, and then you pay for it. Open University is $315 per unit. So that's it differs a little bit than our tuition here as a traditional student, which I'll get to in just a second. So again, Open University is for folks who maybe are not enrolled as a traditional student and still want to take courses and or are using Open University to raise their GPAs. Okay. We also have a process for course equivalencies. So there may be some of you who have taken courses elsewhere or at other institutions that you say, That class sounds really familiar. I think I've already taken it. So we do have a course equivalency request process where basically you submit and for a request form to us stating the course that you've taken at your other institution and which course at Long Beach you think you should get credit for. That is all part of our website, which is linked on here. Please note that if you have taken credential coursework at other institutions, we will only take up to 9 units worth of course equivalencies, okay? And the courses that you've taken must have been taken within the last 7 years. If you're on this session and you're an undergraduate student, maybe part of the liberal studies program, if you're a liberal studies student, your courses that you took as part of your major, you get course equivalencies for like the pre and co-regs of the multiple subject program. And that's something that if you have more questions about at the end of the session, we can talk about. So yeah, so if you folks are from other institutions and some of the courses that I shared on the screen look very familiar, you're like, hey, I took an intro to teaching class and did 45 hours of observations, you can submit a course equivalency request. It'll be evaluated by a faculty member and we could let you know, actually, yeah, we'll give you credit for it, or no, this does not align. You'll have to take the class here. Again, we only allow a maximum of 9 units to be transferred through course equivalencies for the program. Let me check the chat here. There's a question. So applying through Cal State Apply has a higher chance of getting the classes you need. So I guess the question is referencing back like Open University and versus being enrolled as a traditional student. When you're enrolled as a traditional student, right, you get an enrollment date. So you are getting priority enrollment. You're getting a chance to take a look at your classes and enroll as a traditional student. Versus Open University, you're not a student. So you are not being prioritized in the enrollment process. And as part of the program, we do want you to be a university student. You cannot complete the program purely through Open University. You must be matriculated at the time of student teaching especially. So many of you are wondering, what is this going to cost you, right? So I talked about Open University, how there you pay per unit. When you're a matriculated student or, you know, a Cal State Long Beach student, our fees are based on part-time and full-time enrollment. So part-time is if you're in 6 units or less, and with all of the fees included, you're looking at $2,696 per semester. If you're enrolled full-time, so this is 7 units or more, so you could be in 7 units, 12 units, 15 or 18 units, your rate is gonna be $4,178 per semester. So if you are enrolled full-time, right, where your first semester you're in pre and co-recs, that's full-time. Second semester, you're in all your methods courses, that's full-time. And student teaching, that's full-time. You're looking at just around a little over $12,000 for the entire program, right? Because you're doing the 4,178 times 3. If you're spreading out your program in more than 3 semesters, then your tuition rate of that semester will depend on how many units you're enrolled in. If you're in 6 or less, right, $26.96. If you're in 7 or more, right, the $41.78. Financial aid. I always encourage students to fill out FAFSA, right, or the CADA, the California Dream Act, because there are still financial aid opportunities available to students. If you haven't done so already, I know it's past the priority deadline, but I would still encourage you to fill out the FAFSA. And then remember to fill out the FAFSA for the 25-26 school year, which will become available next year. And usually priority time is around like April or so. Always fill out FAFSA because there is financial aid available. Some of it in the form of like Pell Grants, right, loans. You could apply for scholarships. Long Beach has a really big spring semester that pushes for scholarships. We call it beach scholarships, where you fill out one application that gets disseminated to different opportunities based on what you qualify for, right? So you definitely want to fill out FAFSA so that you could become eligible for financial aid opportunities. There's also that TEACH grant that's listed at the bottom. The TEACH grant is a federal grant for future teachers, right? So if you are admitted to an accredited program, you become eligible to get up to $4,000 per year. And then the criteria around that is you agree to work at one of the teach selected schools for 4 years, and then you don't need to pay the money back. So that's also definitely a very appealing grant that a lot of our students do apply for as well. Okay, so that wraps it up for me. On the screen, you could see our contact information, which is right there for you. You feel free to take a screenshot of that and email us anytime. You could also come see us in our Student Success and Advising Center, which is in EED 32. We do in-person advising, no appointment necessary. So you can feel free to come in and ask us some questions, right? Or you can call us. You can call us at 562-985-1105, and we can also answer your questions there. So thank you so much for sitting through that with me. I will now answer questions from the chat. If you do not have any questions and you want to take off and start enjoying your weekend, please do. But I'm going to stop recording and then I'll get to answer your questions. All right. Give me 1 second here.